I guess it's appropriate that we go from a story about all lives matter to the insane news coming out today involving Black Lives Matter. Apparently, Black Lives Matter has released a list of demands. Let's have a look, shall we? Okay, let's start with number one. An immediate end to the criminalization and dehumanization of black youth across all areas of society. An end to capital punishment. An end to money bail, mandatory fines, fees, court surcharges, and defendant-funded court proceedings. An end to the use of past criminal history to determine eligibility for housing, education, licenses, voting, loans, employment, and other services and needs. An end to the war on black immigrants, including the repeal of the 1996 Crime and Immigration Bill. An end to all deportations, immigrant detentions, and ICE raids, and mandated legal representation in immigration court. An end to the war on black trans queens and gender nonconforming people. An end to mass surveillance of black communities. and the end to the use of technologies that criminalize and target our communities, including IMSI catchers, drones, body cameras, and predictive policing software. The demilitarization of law enforcement. An immediate end to the privatization of police, prisons, jails, probation, parole, food, phone, and all other criminal justice related services. Until we achieve a world where cages are no longer used against our people, we demand an immediate change in conditions and an end to public jails, detention centers, youth facilities, and prisons as we know them. This includes the end of solitary confinement, the shackling of pregnant women, access to quality health care, and effective measures to address the needs of our youth, queer, gender, non-conforming, and trans families. Oh, they're not done. That's not it, y'all. We're just getting started. Now they want reparations for past and continuing harms. Reparations for the systematic denial of access to high-quality education opportunities in the form of full and free access for all black people, including undocumented and currently informally incarcerated people, to lifetime education. Reparations for the continued divestment from, discrimination towards, and exploitation of our communities in the form of a guaranteed minimum livable income for the black people with clearly articulated corporate regulations. Reparations for the wealth extracted from our communities through environmental racism, slavery, food apartheid, housing discrimination, and racialized capitalism in the form of corporate and government reparations, focused on healing ongoing physical and mental trauma and ensuring our access and control of food sources, housing, and land. Reparations for the cultural and educational exploitation, erasure, and extraction of our communities in the form of mandated public school curriculums that critically examine the political, economic, and social impacts of colonialism and slavery. Legislation of the federal and state levels that require the United States to acknowledge the lasting impacts of slavery, establish and execute a plan to address those impacts, as includes the immediate passage of H.R. 40, the Commission to Study Reparation Proposal for African American Acts, or subsequent versions, which call for reparations remedies, which means everybody gets paid for slavery. Not done yet. A reallocation of funds at the federal, state, and local level from policing and incarceration to long-term safety strategies. The retroactive decriminalization, immediate release, and record expungement of all drug-related offenses and prostitution, and reparations for the devastating impact of the war on drugs and criminalization of prostitution, including a reinvestment of the resulting savings and revenue into restorative services, mental health services. Real, meaningful, and equitable universal health care that guarantees health care. The constitutional right at the state and federal levels to a fully funded election, which includes a clear articulation of the right to a free education for all, special protection for queer and trans students, wraparound services, social workers, free health services, blah, 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 blah. A divestment from industrial, multinational use of fossil fuels, a cut in military expenditures and a reallocation of those funds to invest in domestic infrastructure, financial support of black alternative institutions. Well, I think that's it. Oh no, there's more. A progressive restructuring of tax codes at the local, state, and federal level, federal and state job programs that specifically target the most economically marginalized black people. A right to restore land, clean air, and clean water, and housing, and end to the exploitative privatization of natural resources. The right for workers to organize in public and private sectors. Restore the Glass-Steagall Act. And into the TPP. Financial support of black alternative solutions. Protection for workers in industries that are not appropriately regulated. Direct democratic community control of local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. And into the privatization of education in rural community controlled by parents, students, and community members of schools, including democratic school boards and community control of curriculum, hiring, firing, and discipline policies. Participatory budgeting at the local, state, and federal level. And into the criminalization of black political activity. So all the political criminals go to jail except for the black ones. Awesome. Public financing of elections and the end of money controlling politics through ending super PACs. Election protection. Full access to technology. Protection, increased funding for black institutions. Now, after we've went and read all of that crazy stuff, does this really sound like something that came from Black Lives Matter, or does this sound like something that came out of the mouth of George Soros to cause more chaos?